Yes, in the previous class we have summarized that any cloud computing platform, uh, yeah, any cloud provider is providing the service resources in the form of what services. Okay, yes. So we have summarized that like three main services are there as part of cloud computing platforms. Means all the services are divided into what three major categories: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Okay, so in case of infrastructure as a service, we have seen yeah, all the computing resources, okay, hardware, network components, storage, everything is provided by what? Microsoft. Okay, just say like we need to select which machine we need. Okay, so which OS we need. So in that, remember, we can install SQL Server also. Which SQL Server we need, we can install here. So that's why like completely dedicated server, dedicated environment we can create here in case of what infrastructure as a service. Okay. After that, in past we have seen platform as a service. It's like yeah, it is built on top of IaaS. So in case of PaaS, remember, built-in softwares are there here. SQL Server is also pre-installed here. Directly we can deploy our databases. Okay, right. So SaaS is it for like we have seen like as a IT company, we can take IaaS or PaaS services from Microsoft. We'll add our own applications. We'll provide those applications as SaaS applications. Like we have seen Office 365, like Salesforce, various SaaS applications are, yeah, available today in the market. SaaS applications. Right, right. So like yeah. So these are see like three major services are there, and we have seen like in case of SQL Server in IaaS, we can create our own servers. We can create with which we are calling it as Azure SQL VM virtual machine. So our own dedicated virtual machine we can create here. We can maintain here. Right. Then next one, see like in case of yeah, in case of PaaS, we have two options are there. One is SQL managed instance option is it to work with instance level. Okay, SQL managed instance option is it, and second one SQL database option is there, which is a database level service here. Managed instance is there, which is a instance level service where we can maintain our own dedicated instance, but not dedicated server. SQL database service is there, which is DB level service. Okay, so where we can deploy our databases, we can manage our databases. Okay, so these are like three options are there as part of Microsoft Azure. For SQL DBA server, we have three options are there as part of what Microsoft Azure. Right. Check here again. Already we have seen in case of traditional IT, everything we have to manage. In IaaS here, networking, storage, servers, virtualization, all these are managed by the provider, means by Microsoft, for example. Then operating systems, middleware, runtime, our database servers, application servers. So everything we have to manage. Okay, so here Microsoft, yeah, just provide the hardware resources for us. Microsoft will provide what? Hardware resources for us. Okay, then everything we have to manage by our own. Whereas in past we have seen along with hardware resources, Microsoft has built the platform also. They have installed SQL Server also. It's just our job is what we can deploy the databases, we can deploy the applications, so we can start working with our application. Means what? No need to maintain here Windows team, storage team, network team, security team. All those are handled by Microsoft itself. Just we have to maintain our database team and application team. Okay, why? Because ready-made platform is available here. Ready-made platform is available, right? Whereas like in SaaS here, everything is provided by the provider only. Means SaaS is generally for non-IT companies to our end users. Providing the applications to our end users is comes under what? SaaS. These are three major services we have discussed here as part of SQL in case of Microsoft Azure. Basically, remember these are the common in any cloud platform. These services are common in any cloud platform. Check here in the summary, we can understand every cloud platform has 5 essential characteristics, 3 service models, and 4 deployment models, which we have seen. Right, right. So that is yeah, summary of what cloud computing platform. Yes. Let's say we'll go with yeah, Microsoft Azure. Here, see in case of for SQL Server DBS, remember, like middleware and runtimes are there. Runtimes are nothing but any runtimes like .NET runtime, Java runtimes. Okay, so middlewares are there to handle the business logic. Okay, so yeah, so maybe some supporting softwares. Okay, to like application servers, everything. Right. Check it in case of if want to if you are planning to write the exam, we have DP 300 is there, exam is there. So there we can write the exam set like where we have their testing set deploying Azure SQL databases. Right. So Azure SQL database is DB level service we have seen. Database level service. So we can check here yeah, 20% they are testing. Then securing Azure SQL databases, 20%. Monitoring and maintaining Azure SQL database performance. Implementing HADR for Azure SQL. So migrating to Azure SQL. These are still subdivision wise, like how yeah they are allowed. Yeah, they have divided into 5 categories here, like means like 5 parts in the exam, where they are testing. Okay, so uh, yeah, almost all here all these concepts will try to cover as part of our course. Okay, so after the end of the course, we can write this exam with some practice. Okay, right. Next year, we'll see again how we are creating SQL database. We'll see. Yesterday we don't have time, so we'll check here how we are creating a Azure SQL database. Okay. Uh, yeah, already we have seen in Azure we have three options are there. We can create directly Azure SQL database. We can create, which is a DB level service. Okay, so we can create a SQL Server instance, okay, which is a instance level service. Then we can create a virtual machine where we can maintain what multiple instances also in a dedicated server virtual machine. Let's say we'll create Azure SQL database will create, which is a DB level service, okay, database level service. One example we'll see. Plus, then we'll see Azure SQL VM also will create SQL VM. Okay, right. And I will connect to the portal. Okay. Yes. Just one second. Just Yes, just here I have logged into the portal. Okay. Check it, like we have options are there. Here, what do you want to create? Here, some regularly used services are listed here. See, okay. So, app service is it basically for application developers. Okay. So, like .NET developer, Java, PHP, any application. Okay. The same way, then we have SQL databases are there, which is our database level service, where we can create our databases, we can access the database. Azure Cosmos DB is there. Azure has its own databases actually. So we can go with this also. Generally, in some scenarios, we are using, some clients are using. Virtual machines are there. Virtual machines allows to create what? A dedicated server with required OS, with required SQL Server version. Load balancers are there. Generally, our network team will use this. Okay. Storage accounts are there where we can create the storage like a SAN. Okay. So virtual networks are there where we can work with the networking features. Then Azure Active Directory is it where we can create users. Okay. Groups, everything. It is similar to our local AD server. Means in local we have seen a AD server will create. AD server will create. Right. So that is same thing here. We have Azure Active Directory. So even we can merge the local AD with this Azure AD. This feature also we'll discuss as part of our course. Important for us. Monitoring services are there, like other services are there here, various services. If I click here, all services, we can see all services, but these are the regularly used services. Let's say we'll go to SQL databases, create database. Take here, very simple steps are there here. Uh, okay, we can create the resource group also by clicking on create button. Or we can use existing one if it is there. Then say database name. So here see with what name you want to create a database and select the server. There is no server. We can create a new server. Means what, we are not installing SQL Server. We are creating the endpoint actually. Take here, create new. Here see, we can provide some server name. Let's we optimize 33. I'm saying any name. It should be unique actually globally. So early it is used, it is saying. Okay, it is available, it is saying. Basically, remember it is a server name means we are creating a endpoint here, endpoint. Okay, so that we can access our databases through this endpoint. Okay, why? Because this Azure SQL Database service comes under what? PaaS, platform as a service, where in the same SQL instance, my databases are there, other clients' databases are there, like this here. That's why it is a shared server actually, okay, to reduce the cost. Where do you want to place this yeah, databases? It is asking. We can select some region here. Okay, right. Here, see, in case of PaaS, remember Azure SQL Database, we don't have our dedicated server here. That's why we have here service tiers are there. We'll talk about later. We have here basic, regularly used here, basic, standard, and premium. Okay, so we can go with in general here standard. We'll see again. Here see it is taking 10 DTUs. By default here it has 10 DTUs per second, 10 database transaction units per second, and database size can grow up to what 250 GB. Its cost is here 15 US dollars. A monthly cost. Apply. So backup storage redundancy it is there. Geo redundant backup storage is there by default. We'll see that later. Review summary it is showing. Create. Let's just hear how simply we can create a empty database here in Microsoft Azure. Okay. Now means what? Azure SQL Database is what DB level service. Already we have summarized that three options are there. One is Azure SQL Database, then Azure SQL Managed Instance, Azure SQL VMs here, virtual machines. Okay, so in that's it. Like it is a database level service. It is instance level, means complete instance is there in our hand. This is what virtual machine, complete machine is there in our hand, where we can have multiple instances. We can install what multiple instances. Okay, so that is like different yeah services are there. So like three major services are there here. Generally, while working with a SQL database in Microsoft Azure. Right. So that's why remember for startup applications, for small scale applications, we are going with what? Azure SQL database. Azure SQL database here, first one. Okay, for startup applications, which is a DB level service. Check here, like it is a database level service. Means what? We have control only on our database. Okay, we don't have control on entire instance level. Okay, only we can access and work with database, particular database or a group of databases also. Basically, it is a database level service. Here's a database is maintained in a shared SQL instance. Okay, where my databases are there, other client databases are also there in the shared instance. So we can access the database or databases by creating endpoint. Just remember endpoint we are creating, just now we have seen OPT 34 something we have created, which is the endpoint. Through endpoint we can access the databases here. Okay, yes. Then say like basically we have seen for startup applications, and here database size yeah can grow, can be up to 1 TB. 4 TB also option is it, but better to maintain up to what 1 TB so that we can manage easily. Okay, right. So here say like pricing is there here. Pricing is there, depends on number of DTUs. Okay, database transaction units per second, number of DTUs, and database size. Pricing is there. Okay, just now we have seen we have taken like 10 DTUs, 10 DTUs per second, and the database can grow up to 250 GB, right? So its cost is showing $15 here per month. That means what? Remember, we are not, but we have not purchased here hardware, SQL Server software, antivirus systems, networking components, storage. See, That's why it is very easy for our clients to go with what Azure SQL databases, especially for startup applications. Okay, so here see, in Azure SQL database already we have seen there is no log shipping. We can't implement mirroring, replication. Okay, so always on. But remember, it has its own high availability features like geo replication. Geo replication is almost all similar to always on. Always on. Okay, so where we can maintain as it is copy of database. Okay, in the same way, here we have replication is there with the name data sync, which is almost all similar to transactional replication. We can have bidirectional option here, uh, transactional replication actually. So we can replicate the data between Azure databases, okay, as well as we can replicate between uh, Azure to on-premises databases also in bidirectional if you want with what data sync. So here see all the backups are built-in backups are there. We are not going to schedule the backups by default. Scheduled backups are there here. Okay, no need to schedule separately. The same way, built-in alerts are there. Just we need to configure the threshold values, and we have to mention the email IDs to which mail ID I want to get the mail. Okay, in the same way, we have here automatic tuning is there. Automatic tuning means what, even we can automate the performance tuning process also. Means what, whenever the indexes are fragmented, okay, so we can mention that automatically rebuild the indexes, automatically reorganize the indexes. Okay, if the statistics are out of date, so stale statistics are there, we can mention that automatically update the statistics. The symbol like automatic tuning option is there here in Azure SQL database. That's why a large number of databases as a single DBA we can manage here. Okay, so why? Because we have less manual activities are there here. Sorry, some problem was there. Yes, check here. All these are said, everything, almost all, everything is built in here. That's why large number of databases we can manage very easily. In case of what? Azure SQL database. Here see there is no agent service here. Why? Because it is database level service, right? Not instance level. If it is instance level service, then we have agent, SQL Server agent. But here see there is no SQL Server agent service here. That's why for automation, remember for automation, we have to use Azure Automation Services there here. Azure Automation Services. By using this Azure Automation Service, we have to automate if we want to schedule any activities here. These are that's why we have to understand here purely it is a DB level service. Only particular DB level we can work here. Right. Just now we have created one Azure SQL database. Let's say we'll see. Yeah, it is ready. It is saying deployment is completed. It is saying okay. Check here. We can check from here also SQL databases. One database is there, sales database. Yeah. Check here resource group name. This is the server name OPT34 we have provided here. for endpoint. .database.windows.net is common. Database status is online. Location. Okay. So connection strings here we can provide the connection string to our .NET developers, Java developers, PHP developers. So if I go to connection strings here, for .NET developers, we can provide this connection string. For Java developers, we can provide this connection string. Through this, they will connect. ODBC for any other applications, PHP, like this here. Connection strings are available. Okay, so that our application developers can connect to this database. Right. So in the same way, like pricing tier is it. Right now I'm using standard. In standard we have S0. Actually we have three main pricing tiers are there here: basic, standard, premium. Okay, in basic we have database can grow up to 2 GB only, but in standard it can grow up to 250 GB. I can say like number of DTUs wise cost is there. We'll talk about this later. Still remember, no restore point is available. Why? Because just now we have created the database. Still backup is not generated. In general, remember, whenever we create a database, whenever we deploy the database, within 30 minutes, within half an hour, full backup is generated automatically within 30 minutes. Okay, so just now we have deployed, still the backup was not generated. Okay, yeah, check here like yeah, DT utilization it is showing no users are connected to this database. That's why 0 it is saying 0 DTUs. Then here see database features are there here. Notifications are there, 0 notifications. Database features are there. TD, transparent data encryption is by default enabled here. Okay, then automatic tuning we have seen. It is not enabled. We have to configure. Replication is not enabled. Means it is like our replicas here. See, means what? It is similar to always on to maintain as it is copy of database. Okay, in different regions. Azure Defender service is there for security purpose. By default, it is not enabled. It is saying auditing is not enabled. DDM is the dynamic data masking. By default, it is not enabled. Only TD is enabled. Okay, we can enable all these other features. Okay, we'll see this one. Then, in the same way, like we can work with this, we can connect to this database. We can work with SSMS from our laptop, or we have query editor is there. Here also we can work with the commands here directly. In portal itself we can work. But remember, to connect and work with this database, sales database, first steps here, we have to configure the firewall. Check here, set server firewall. Okay, so this is my IP, client IP, my system IP actually. I will say add client IP. Okay, added here successfully. Save. Even now, remember, from your machines also you can access this database. If you see what is my IP in your machine, it displays your IP. Okay, so current IP, that IP if I add here, for example, okay, then you can also connect to this database. We have some other options that we'll see in firewall later in detail. We'll go back. Let's say I want to connect to this database. First here with query editor, we can work here itself. Here in the portal itself, we can connect. Okay. So here editor is, yeah, we are getting editor. Here itself, we can work with the commands here temporarily for. Okay. Like this here, same thing. Select and run this command. Success. Right. Check here. Run the commands. Success. Like this here, we can work with the commands from here itself. Here. Okay. Right. So yeah, basic commands we can work from here. Even we can open the query, we can run the query if you have some script is there. Okay, or we can connect through SSMS also. Let's say I will open SSMS in my laptop. Through SSMS also we can connect and start working with. If any questions are there, please type in the chat panel. I think we are on the same page, means you are following me. Yes, check here. Through SSMS also we can connect. How we can connect here? If I go back to overview, okay, this is our server name. Copy the server name. Yeah, paste here. Then say login name while creating the database endpoint. We have mentioned some login name, password, connect. Here connected successfully. Check it. So we can see our own database, only sales database. And you see here, there are no other feed options. That's why in our, if I connect to my local server, on-premises server, you can see all the options. Why? Because we are connecting to our server. But here it is Azure SQL Database service. That's why we can work at DB level only. That's why we don't have all these options here. Okay, DB level service we have to understand. And here by default version is there here V12. See here in Azure SQL Database service, fixed version. We don't have option to select the version. Fixed version is there V12. It's 12.0 version, almost all or 2014 version, for example, right? 12.0 version. V12, we don't have option to select our 2019 or 2017. Why? Because yeah, here see the cost is very less and it is a DB level service. That's why fixed version is there. Check here Microsoft SQL Azure 12.0. Okay, fixed version. Right. Yeah, point in time, one question is there. Is there any point in time restore is possible? Yes, yes, correct. Possible here. Why? Because just I have said that after creating the fresh database, after 30 minutes, first backup is generated. Then remember, for every 5 to 10 minutes interval, log backups are generated. That's why we'll see here in backup restore option. Under restore, it is showing here. We can do point in time restore also. Okay, right. We'll see in backup restores. Right, right. Check here. Just I have created one SQL database. We have created. Just we have discussed some of the properties we have discussed. Right. SQL database. If I go down here, see, we have options are there. We have seen connection string database properties are there. We can configure replicas, means always on. same copies. We can maintain sync is there here, which is similar to our replication, transactional replication. In the same way here, auditing TDM, all the features we can implement here, security related, TD. Then performance here, we can see here query performance insight option is there here. By using this option, we can check the performance of means what, like top 10 queries which are consuming more CPU, more memory. Okay, so 24 hours, last 24 hours, which queries were causing blocking, deadlocks. All these we can check here. See the query performance insights. Still data is not generated. It is just now we have created database. So resource consuming queries, long running queries. Okay, we can CPU wise, data file IO wise, log file IO wise. We can generate here. Okay, right. So we can implement automatic tuning. We have seen we can configure alerts also. Okay, we can raise the supports here if something is going wrong. If something is not working, we can raise the support also, okay, to Microsoft team. That is like how simply we can create a database here in Microsoft Azure SQL Database, SQL Database. We have seen totally 3 options are there. If you type here Azure SQL, we have totally we have 3 options. In Azure SQL here, it will show us that see 3 options already we have seen. One is we can work with SQL databases, which is a single database, DB level service. Then managed instance, okay, single instance, complete instance, multiple DBs we can handle here, and virtual machines, right? So these are the 3 major services here on which we are working as a SQL Server DBA or developer. So in Microsoft Azure. Okay, SQL databases, managed instances, and VMs. Right. So this managed instance means it is we are creating here our own dedicated instance. We are creating instance. Here we have some databases we have placed in a shared instance. Here we can create our own dedicated instance. But here complete server, we can create our own server. In that we can have any number of instances we can maintain. Right. One question is that can we check data and log file locations? Data and log file locations we can't see here in SQL databases. Okay, so but we can download this instance. We can export this instance database into some file. We can take backup manually, so we can restore in our on-premises environment. Then we can see the data file log files. That's why we don't have access on data file log files directly in SQL databases. Right. In the same way, like we can create a managed instance also here, which is complete instance level service. Okay. So here create Azure SQL Database managed instance. Managed instance is a fully managed PaaS database service with extensive on-premises SQL Server compatibility and native virtual network security. Okay, so same thing, we can create resource group, we can select or we can create here managed instance details. We have to mention here instance name. Enter required settings for this instance, including picking a location and configuring the compute and storage resources. This is your instance level service, means we don't have control on our machine. But in one machine, virtual machine, this instance is created. So instance level we can work with. Instance level. First one we have seen DB level service. Here we can work with what? Instance level. Complete instance is there in our control. Okay, check your instance name. It is saying, for example, like HSBC loans. I'm saying, sorry, lowercase letters. We need to use HSBC loans. Some instance name, for example. Okay, then in which location you want to place. Okay, same things here. Compute is asking like how much memory, how many cores you want to allocate to this instance. Okay, means what? In one virtual machine this instance is maintained. So virtual machine may have like it has 80 cores, like so much size actually, but how many cores you want to allocate for this instance. Okay, the same way storage in GBs, how much storage you want. Okay, so in the machine, how much storage you want for this instance you want to work with. For example here, so like if you have already licensed, its cost will reduce, but see, cost is very high here, right? So because complete instance we are maintaining, cost is very high. In SQL databases, we have no database level service where the cost is very less. Okay, $10, $20. Okay, here the cost is very high. Why? Because it is instance level service, complete instance we are managing. So yeah, general purpose 4 core 64 GB storage, geo redundant backups are there. We can change this later also. Then instance login name, password. Okay, at least 16 characters it is. Okay. Yeah, check here. Then networking we can define here actually additional settings we can set, like collation settings, time zone we can set, UTCR, which time zone you want to maintain for your instance. Then geo replication, use this instance as a failure group. So secondary, we can make this instance as a secondary also in geo replication. So means geo replication means we have seen like always on tags, all these are optional. Let's see, we'll see review. It is saying here very huge cost is there here. Generally for startup clients. Okay, create. But total instance is in our control. In here we will get here, see, always latest version. Okay, here see, always will get what? Latest version will get here, always. This is a like instance level service. For medium scale applications, we can use this. Where we have complete, always remember latest version. SQL Server latest version will get here by default always. Even like tomorrow Microsoft is releasing new version, automatically they will upgrade to new version. Okay, no need to request also, automatically they will upgrade. Right, but here complete single instance is the there in our hand actually, complete single instance where we have total features of the instance including agent, service, everything. Okay, similar to on premises. complete instance option is there. Again, but again, it is there in a shared server actually. It is not a dedicated our own server. So that's why if we want to go with our own servers, dedicated server, then we have to go with what? SQL VM. Means what? We can create a virtual machine. In that virtual machine, we can manage one or more instances. Okay, virtual machine. Here we can select with which version we want. From SQL Server 2012 onwards, here we can select any version which we need, and we can select our own operating system also. Okay, complete machine is there in our hand. Means we can stop the server, we can start the server. Okay, we can take remote desktop of the server. Right. So yeah, we'll see this one once again in the next class. After that, we'll start with Azure SQL databases. One by one, we'll discuss. Just to show the demo, just I have created one SQL database. Just now we have connected and worked with, as well as this is our SQL instance. Once it is ready, we can connect to the instance, okay, through SSMS. We can work with total instance features. Okay, right. Let's see how simply we are creating and managing the instances. Yes, it takes some time. We'll conclude the session today here. We'll continue again tomorrow. Okay, means next class on Monday. So I will create again, once again, this instance will connect through SSMS. Then we'll see how we are creating SQL VMs. After that, we'll start with the SQL databases one by one in detail. We'll discuss. Okay, right.